What better way to talk about plant hardiness than to show you just how extreme temperatures can get. I live in Zone 4, Northern Great Plains, and we are experiencing a cold blast, so we're going to be touching on some of the Zone 3 lower temperatures. Let's go ahead and we'll jump outside, take a quick look at a thermometer that I've got mounted on this bird feeder that I can see outside my office window. Looks like we're currently at about, 35 below. I'm showing 37 below on my digital thermometer, that lower right temperature that you see there. So when we're talking about hardiness, we're referring to the lower temperatures that those plants can tolerate on average, and the average is the most important part of it. Here's a look at the latest published USDA hardiness map, and if this is new to you, the lower zone numbers indicate lower average temperatures each season. We're right in this area here, so our average lows are between that 20 to 30 below Fahrenheit. On this side, a box will pop up and it allows you to enter your zip code, giving you a zone rating for that area. If you travel and like to visit various gardens, this is also a great way to determine what zone you are in. Now, since we're only going to be experiencing these really cold temperatures for 2 to 3 days, I don't expect that we're going to see a lot of additional injury because of this, maybe a little bit. But if that cold snap were to last 7 to 10 days, that can be a game changer for some of the hardy plants. Now, a few additional variables that can really make a difference on how your plants survive the winter. The first one, windy conditions. Now, the wind conditions isn't going to make the temperature colder, but it just accelerates how quickly a plant can possibly desiccate, especially conifers. Whether or not you get some snow cover also makes a big difference on how plants can survive, especially the herbaceous perennials. When that snow falls, you're going to trap some of the thermal heat underground, and that's going to keep the temperatures a little bit higher. And not only does that snow trap the heat, it's going to insulate it from those extreme temperatures above. And the third one is whether or not your soil is quite dry going into the fall. Good soil moisture is going to just freeze up and lock up that soil profile a little bit better than the dry soil. Okay, how do plants survive those cold temperatures? Obviously, plants have water or sap moving within their cellular structure during the growing season, but as fall approaches, they start to acclimate. Shorter days, cooler temperatures, a lot of different physiological things start happening in the plant. It's going to signal to them that they've got to start moving that water out of cells into other areas of the plant that aren't going to be subjected to damage when that water freezes. The water that is left behind in the cells becomes concentrated with a much higher sugar content, acting like an antifreeze for the plant. This then avoids the rupture of the cell from expansion, as well as the sharp edges of ice crystals. So it's kind of a fascinating thing to read about, but that's just kind of a general idea. Now, deciduous trees are plants that drop their leaves. They're basically in a hibernation period. Again, a process where they have to make sure that that water in those cells isn't going to freeze. Evergreen conifers, on the other hand, they keep their needles or leaves all winter long. They don't go fully into a hibernation mode or dormant period. They might still do just a little bit of photosynthesis, but they still have to survive the winter by creating those concentrated sugars that aren't going to freeze like normal water would. And that's where that windy condition comes into play with a conifer. If that wind is strong, cold temperatures, eventually a plant can just not have enough moisture. It'll desiccate, dry out, and you'll get burning. And on that note, I used to really push the envelope and plant a lot of the evergreen conifers that probably were borderline hardy. Even though the label said Zone 4, it probably was closer to the Zone 5. Now, what could you do to determine whether or not it's something that's on the edge or borderline? Try to make relationships with your garden centers, area landscapers, or if you've got agricultural extension offices. Many people join garden clubs, forums online. And that's one of the great things about gardening in general, is you have a good community of plant lovers. You can share information and a lot of times find out the answer to those questions. Now, for this cold blast, we're only going to have 2 to 3 nights where we're going to push the limits towards that 40 below Fahrenheit. And believe it or not, in about a week, we're actually going to see highs of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So almost about like an 80-degree swing. Now, since we're still in the dead of winter, I don't think those extreme lows, especially the short-term ones, make as much of a difference as some of those lows when we get closer into spring. What can happen is a plant starts waking up, let's say in the the month of March, we start getting maybe temperatures up in the 65, 70 degrees. Buds start swelling and days are getting longer. Now, if you get a sudden drop or an 80-degree swing from 70 degrees Fahrenheit down to even, say, 10 below or even 0 degrees Fahrenheit, you might have a problem there. So getting closer into the spring is where you really run more of a risk on some of your plants, mostly because that plant may have started moving some of that water back into the cells. You get that freezing, that disruption. Now, even if a lot of your plants do show some injury, it doesn't mean you're always going to get death on that. I have a lot of shrubs that are sub-shrubs, whether it be this black lace elderberry, that tends to die back every year, but comes back just fine. A royal purple smoke bush, same thing, dies back a lot of times to the ground, but comes back gangbusters every year. And most of the weigelas that I plant, they tend to have injury as well. But here again, they come back just fine after pruning out that dead growth. The evergreen conifers are not always as forgiving as the deciduous shrubs, but be patient in the spring. Even if you see burning on the needles, the dormant buds are often unharmed and they'll flush out a new round of growth as temperatures warm up. Eventually those damaged needles, they'll begin to drop off the shrub or tree, but it can sometimes take several months before that process is complete and the symptoms are completely gone. Now in my area, when we do experience these extreme cold periods, normally the wind drops down to almost nothing and we get beautiful sunny days along with them. If you don't mind, I'm going to veer off topic just a little bit here and show you what I like to do and have a little fun when it gets this cold. I break out my solar oven. If you take a look here, I'm sprinkling some spice mix on a frozen roast. Now I purchased this oven made like this, but you could make one out of a cooler and a glass cover. Today we'll be putting that roast in the oven at about 25 below zero. We'll be angling it towards the sun, and then throughout the day as the sun moves east to west, we'll just adjust the box to keep a direct angle. It's got a little guide here on the bottom which helps find that sweet spot, that best angle. It's amazing, but within the first hour we'll already have temperatures reaching over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And this temperature, it'll hold for the rest of the day as long as clouds don't appear. After about 5 to 6 hours, that roast will be cooked to perfection. I can always tell it's getting close as the inside starts building up with that condensation that you see on the glass. As we open the door here, check out the steam that rolls out of here. Oh yeah, she's definitely hot. So there you go, that's one of my ways of not letting winter win and having a little bit of fun with it. Oh man, that tastes so good. Okay, so back on topic here, I begin to wonder if the cold weather is what I really have to worry about the most. Look at that rapid damage on this big tuna amugopine. They're just devouring it. Half the plant's gone already. And here's a fire gold spirea. This is a common target every season for the rabbits, but it always bounces back. That's all I've got for now on plant hardiness and cooking roasts outdoor in the winter. Thanks for stopping by Garden Hike. I appreciate it. We'll see you again next video.